Chapter 21 Visitors. The next day in the morning, I saw the ship. The ship stopped far from the beach. The ship looked empty. I didn't understand it. I expected the people who fired the gun yesterday. I really wanted to communicate to somebody. I miss communication with real people very much. I took my canoe and I decided to go to the ship. I wanted to see if somebody survived. The ship looked Spanish, and it was completely destroyed. When I got closer, I saw a dog. He was very happy to see me. I gave him bread, and I gave him water. He was hungry and extremely thirsty. I found nobody on the ship. What happened to the men from the ship? I thought. It was very strange. I didn't have an answer to this question. It was a mystery. There were many boxes with different things on the ship. Some boxes were small. Some boxes were big. Many big boxes were full of bottles with alcohol. But these boxes were too heavy. I couldn't take the boxes on the canoe. I found guns and gunpowder. I took them to the canoe. I also found some other useful things. I returned to the island in the evening with several small boxes on my canoe. I had some new shirts and also gold, silver, and a lot of gunpowder. The gunpowder was important for me. On the island, gunpowder was more useful than money or gold. There was something else which I needed very much. I needed shoes. I found 2 pairs of shoes on board the ship. I took the shoes with me. I put all my new things in the cave. I made 5 trips to the ship. I took everything useful for me. Then I hid the canoe. Everything went back to normal. Time went quickly. I often thought about the men from the ship and the cannibals on the beach. It was one night in March when I dreamed that 2 canoes with cannibals landed on the beach. One of their prisoners ran away. He came to my house. I saved him. Then he became my friend. He helped me go through the dangerous waters around the island. I woke up, but the dream stayed in my mind. I realized that with someone's help, it could be possible to escape from the island. Maybe I could save one of the prisoners of the cannibals. I decided to watch the beach more. I went every day around the beach for the next 2 years. I hoped to see the canoes. My wish became reality one afternoon. I saw 5 canoes with more than 30 men on the beach. I couldn't attack so many men. I had to wait. I watched the visitors with my telescope. The visitors made a fire, and they started to dance around it. I also saw 2 other men. They were tied. They were prisoners. The 2 tied men were taken to the fire after a while. One was beaten and killed. The cannibals painted their bodies with his blood. It was like a theater. But this wasn't a theater. It was real. It was horrible. But I couldn't do anything. There were too many cannibals. The second man waited on the side. When the cannibals didn't look, the second man jumped up and he started to run away. He was running in my direction. I ran to the beach and I hid behind a tree. I saw that he was followed only by 2 cannibals. This was the right moment to save the prisoner. The man ran as fast as possible, but the cannibals were closer and closer to him. Their speed was faster than his. Chapter 22 Friday. I prepared 2 guns, and I waited behind the tree. The prisoner ran directly to my tree. But he didn't see me. I didn't move. Then he ran around me. I was still hidden behind the tree. When the first cannibal ran close to me, I jumped from behind the tree. He was shocked. I shot him. The second cannibal saw this. He tried to shoot an arrow at me. I had to shoot him too. The prisoner stopped when he heard the shots and he turned. He was scared. I smiled at him. I showed him that it was okay to come closer. He came to me. He went down to his knees. He put his head on the ground. Then he took my foot. He put my foot on his head. I showed him to stand up. He stood up. He looked at the dead cannibals. He went to their bodies. He looked at the holes in their bodies. He probably couldn't understand what happened to the cannibals. It was unbelievable to him. He took the arrows from the dead men. We took the bodies of the cannibals. We hid the bodies in the forest near. Then we went into the deeper forest. I took the man to my cave. The cave was my secret. Nobody could find us there. I gave him bread, meat, and some water. He was so tired that he fell asleep almost immediately. I had an opportunity to look at him. I saw that he was young, slim, but very strong. I thought that he was about 25 years old. He had long black hair, dark skin, and a pleasant face. I let him sleep, and I went outside. I stayed near the cave, and I watched for the cannibals. But they didn't look for us. 3 hours later, the man came out of the cave. He showed me how happy he was that he was alive and safe. I started speaking to him. I named him Friday. It was Friday when I saved his life. I told him my name and I taught him yes and no. We stayed in the cave that night. The next day, we went on top of the hill. I saw through my telescope that the canoes were gone. We were alone on the island. We went carefully to the beach. First, we went to the place where we hid the bodies of the dead cannibals. When we found the bodies, Friday wanted to eat the cannibals. I was angry. I showed to Friday that it wasn't good to eat them. Here I understood that Friday was also a cannibal. We buried the cannibals. Then we walked to the beach. What we saw was horrible. There were human bones all around. The sand was red with blood. I asked Friday to collect all the body parts. I prepared a big fire. I decided to burn the body parts in the fire. We went to my house. I made a little tent for Friday between the two fences which were around my house. I took all his weapons away. I wanted to feel safe. After a while, I realized that I didn't have to do it. Friday was a very good and honest man. He was like a child to me. I was like a father to him. In many situations later, he showed me that he was willing to give his life for me. I was very happy to have Friday on the island. I began teaching him everything what he needed to know about life like a European. First, I taught him some new words. I started with hi, hello, bye, thank you. It wasn't easy at the beginning, but I was patient because I was happy that I could speak to somebody. Chapter 23, Conversation. 2 days later, I shot a young goat. Friday was scared of the gun. He didn't understand how such a small thing could kill a goat. He didn't want to touch the gun. Later I saw how he talked to the gun. He probably asked the gun not to kill him. We took the goat. We made a nice soup. Before the soup was finished, Friday went to the forest, and he brought some herbs. He put the herbs into the soup. The herbs were similar to pepper. The soup smelled fantastic, and it tasted fantastic too. We cooked some of the goat meat the next day with sauce. Again, Friday brought some herbs and also plants. The herbs made the sauce taste great. They made a big difference. And we made a nice salad from the plants. I taught Friday how to prepare corn and bake bread. He could do it as well as me a few days later. Then we started expanding my garden to have more corn. In all activities, Friday helped me a lot. He was also very good at catching fish. Our cooperation was simply great. We were a good team. I wanted to teach Friday to speak English very well. I wanted to teach him English as fast as possible. I wanted to be a good teacher. I took my role very seriously. I thought about the best method to teach him English. When I spoke to him fast, and when I used all the words in grammar, he didn't understand me. So I tried to speak mainly in the present. And I used simple words. I also said only short sentences. This way, Friday understood more. We spoke about many topics. When Friday didn't understand something, I pointed at it. or I tried to explain the word to him. If it didn't help, I made a picture of the thing in the sand. Soon Friday started to understand many of my sentences in the present. He also started to use some words. His pronunciation was very bad at the beginning. But it wasn't important for me. I understood him. And I was very happy that somebody spoke to me. Friday was a good student. He was clever, and he was improving quickly. Soon he could say some words like an Englishman. Of course, not all the words. But the words which he said correctly made me very happy. I saw that Friday very often repeated aloud what I said. I think that it also helped him to learn so fast. I thought, learning a language is quite easy. You only need to copy what you hear, and if you don't understand something, you need a picture of it. Then you need a lot of practice. This is the best system. Friday's progress was fast. He was able to talk more and more every day. In a couple of months, we could have a basic simple conversation. Friday liked my tools. They were very interesting for him. He especially liked the telescope. He borrowed the telescope very often. He went to one of the hills, and he watched everything around. Once, I asked him about his people and how he became a prisoner. He told me that they ate human meat like their opponents. In fact, in the past, he did a ritual on the other side of my island. He was probably one of the cannibals, who I saw a long time ago. He told me about the sea and the currents in the sea. Thanks to Friday, I learned about the history, culture, and traditions of his people. Chapter 24. Knife. I told Friday my personal story, and I described England and Europe to him. I told him about our cities, schools, ships, and traveling around the world. I told him that education was important in Europe, and that we studied from books. It was all new to him. Friday's people didn't need schools on the islands. They had all what they needed for their life. When I felt that I could trust him enough, I showed him how gunpowder worked. I taught him how to use a gun. I gave him a knife and a belt. He was happy with my presents. He said that he saw a similar knife before. I asked him to tell me more. He explained that his people saved white men from a small boat and that they still lived with them. He counted 17 Europeans who lived with his people. I thought that these men could be the sailors from the ship which came to my island some time ago. They probably saved themselves in a boat. I didn't find anybody alive when I went on board. Friday told me that they were okay. I was happy to hear that some Europeans lived not very far from my island. I started to plan how to meet the Europeans. The next day, we went on a small trip around the island. First, we went to the cross where I wanted to mark another day. "What is it?" asked Friday when we came to the cross. I explained that we have 7 days in a week. These days are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Saturday and Sunday are also called weekend. When Friday heard the word Friday, he laughed. I explained to him that I saved him on Friday. That's why I called him Friday. Now, he fully understood the meaning of his name. During the walk, Friday told me, "If we build a canoe and go to my island, I will tell my people how you saved my life." I took Friday to the other side of the island. I showed him my canoe there. But he said, "This canoe is too small for the 2 people. We have to make a bigger canoe." So, we started making a bigger canoe. We had to cut a big tree, and I showed him how to cut the inside and form a canoe. It took us a month to do this, and 2 days to move it to the beach. The canoe was ready, and we were ready too. The day before we wanted to go, Friday went to the beach. He came back very quickly. He looked very scared. Before I asked him what happened, he said that there were 3 canoes on the beach. He was scared because he thought the cannibals came to find him. He said, "There is a war between 2 groups of local people. We are neighbors, but we don't like each other. We had many conflicts in the past. There was never peace. We kill each other whenever we can. When they see me, they will kill me. I told him, "Don't worry. We are strong. And maybe they didn't come for you today. We will see." We took 15 guns. We went on top of a hill. We saw 14 cannibals, 2 prisoners, and 3 canoes on the beach. They stopped close to the place where the forest was near the beach. Thanks to this, it was easier to attack the cannibals and save the prisoners. We went to them quietly through the forest. I thought about my right to kill the cannibals. I had no reason to shoot so many people who did nothing wrong to me. After some thinking, I decided only to watch and attack the cannibals only if it was necessary. Chapter 25. Father, when we were very close to the beach, we saw that the cannibals were around the fire. They started eating the first of their prisoners. The second prisoner was still alive. He wasn't one of Friday's people. He was European. The cannibals wanted to eat him too. I decided to save him if it was possible. We moved closer to the cannibals, but we were still hidden behind the trees. 12 cannibals were still around the fire, but 2 cannibals went for the white man. When I saw this, I prepared the guns and I asked Friday to do the same. Then we fired quickly at the cannibals from 6 guns. We killed 3 and seriously injured 2 of the cannibals. The rest jumped up, but they didn't know where to run. They didn't know from which direction the danger came. Some men ran to their canoes. Some cannibals stayed on the beach. We continued to shoot, and we shot 3 other cannibals. After that, we took our guns and we ran to the beach. We shouted very loud. I ran to the prisoner and Friday shot the nearest cannibal. I freed the European. He said something in Spanish to me. I gave him a gun. He was weak, but he could shoot from a gun if some cannibal attacked him. The cannibals were shocked by our sudden attack. Our unusual gun scared them a lot. Only 2 cannibals tried to fight us. We shot them with our guns. Friday fought very well. He quickly killed 1 cannibal who was injured. The second injured cannibal ran into the forest. Friday ran after him, and he killed him with his knife. Only 3 cannibals were able to run away. They jumped into their canoe, and they started to leave. Friday shot at the cannibals, but he didn't hit them. It was dangerous to let them go because they could tell their people about us. We wanted to jump into one canoe and follow the cannibals. But to our surprise, we found another man on the bottom of the canoe. He was scared. He didn't see the fight. He only heard it. Ropes around his neck were very tight. He was in great pain, and it was difficult for him to breathe. I quickly cut the ropes. When Friday saw him, he started crying. Then he laughed and he hugged the man. Then he jumped and began dancing around him. Then he cried and laughed at the same time. When the strongest emotions were gone, Friday told me that the prisoner was his father. I felt tears in my eyes when I saw the son's love for his father. This happy incident delayed us, and the cannibals were already gone. Friday massaged his father's hands and feet to bring more blood to them. Soon his father felt much better. When they talked, Friday suddenly jumped up and ran to the forest as fast as he could. When he came back, he had a bottle full of fresh water. He gave the water to his father, who was extremely thirsty. After he drank, I asked Friday to give the rest of the water to the Spanish. He needed water very much too. The Spanish thanked me a lot. He couldn't walk. He was very weak. I asked Friday to massage his feet too. It helped him. Then I asked the Spanish to go with Friday's help to the canoe. We wanted to take them to our house. However, Friday was young and strong. He had a lot of power. He just took the Spanish on his back and carried him to the canoe. Then he carefully put him inside the canoe.